Hello. It's interesting because I like come here and I have so many stories. I mean, that happen every day. I could tell you a story. But when you come in to sit down, they all disappear for some reason. And you're like, I don't do anything fun or have a life. But that's not true. I have a very exciting, thrilling, some would say, existence on this planet. And I actually have a really, really thoughtful story that I decided would be a good antidote to share. So, I used to live in Venice Beach, California, and I lived right on the canals. And as most people are aware of, there's a huge population of homeless people there. I like to call them the gypsies that keep Venice, Venice, because there's like all these obnoxious nouveau riche, like Google people and Snapchat people that have moved in and turned it into like hell on earth. And what keeps that part of California so incredible and interesting and like savage is, I think, the transient homeless people that like sleep on the beach and live in the canals. Like you'll have $1 million house, built like multiple $1 million houses, and then you'll have like a guy in a tent like outside. And I think that he's probably smarter than the millionaire because he has beachfront property for free, and they are like working 9 to 9 for years and years and years and years, and they never even get to go to the beach. Or like they get on an electric scooter if it works, if it's charged, to like drive 5 feet to the beach, which is like a whole other problem of people. Anyway, so anyway, I was riding my bike home one day and I stop at a stoplight and I like see this guy kind of erecting a tent. He's like making a bunch of noise. It's not really going well for him. And I say, hi. And he says, hello. And I'm just like, how's it going? And he's like, better now, fully flirting with me. Like he's a lot older. I would say like, you know, maybe 70s, but like super, super tan, shaggy blonde hair, dirty, like really, really dirty. And he's like, you got any spare change? And I said, I'm sorry, I don't, but I have like some snacks. And he's like, I said, do you want my food? I just bought food. And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome, but I have no teeth. And then he like smiles, this big gummy grin, right? And my heart just like sunk into my chest because like not only is this person homeless, but like the simplicity of like a random snack that someone would give him is difficult for him to eat. And like that's just something that we take advantage of, I think. You know, like complaining about X, Y, and Z, or like this guy didn't call me back. And like this man doesn't have any teeth, let alone a house, but like no teeth to eat. So I think in my head, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, well, is there anything else I can get you? And he's like, oh, I'd love a bottle of water. And I'm like, oh, that I can do. I understand the need for water. Water is life. I'm the water bearer. I'm a Pisces. This is my thing. I'm gonna take care of him. So I ride my bike back to the house and I grab a giant bottle of water, like a big smart water thing. And then I'm like, okay, he has no teeth, so I need to get him something. So I make some tomato soup and then I scramble up some eggs and I make a mashed potato and I like make this little like bento box essentially. And then I'm like, what else does he want? Okay, so I'm like, well, he probably needs some emergency because, you know, it's rough out there on the streets and who doesn't need vitamin C? So I like grab a bunch of emergency and then I grab some Advil because I'm like, he probably could use that because he might have a headache or like maybe in the future and that's expensive. And I was like, what else can he eat without teeth? Oh, I have a smoothie, like those shakeable smoothies. So I grab him that, like a protein shake, and I make this like full care package, and I like wrap it up and get on my bike, and I roll back over there, and I knock on his tent, like scratchy scratch, and he like unzips it, and he like peers out, like, and he's like, oh, hey, hi, and I'm like, hi, I just brought you some stuff I thought maybe you could use, and it's all no teeth worthy. Like you can eat everything, I thought about this. He's like, wow, that's amazing. And he's like, you want to sit with me while I eat it? And I was like, sure. So we sat on the curb of South Venice and Pacific, and he, drank the smoothie and was like looking through all the stuff. And he's like, this is like Christmas. Another like, to my heart, because it's just Walgreens Bounty. It's like, it was so easy, and it was like scrambled eggs and tomato soup. And we started talking, and his name's Mike, and he was a veteran, and he moved to LA for a girl and to be a stuntman. And then one day he fell out of a window on a movie set and broke his leg, and then got addicted to painkillers and opioids, which then turned into meth and heroin. And he said he doesn't know where the girl is because the 90s were a blur. But he's been clean and sober for 5 years, and he has a new girlfriend who gets out of jail in a week. And I was just like, fuck. That's like real. That's like, it's so easy to end up homeless. Like, homeless people are not degenerates. They're not bad people. They're not unintelligent. They just fell on a hard time and weren't able to pick themselves back up. And I think that they're incredibly resilient and incredibly smart and talented, because we need so much stuff to exist. And I think humans are so dependent on all of these things that they don't really need, because he has a tent. And I don't know how much money he has in his pocket, but it's probably all he has. And he's existing, and maybe not like in the most fancy, sparkly way, but like he has beachfront property in Venice Beach, California, and he's got a babe bringing him a care package. And he looks at me and he says, "You got the most beautiful eyes." And they're like welling up with tears. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." He's like, "Your husband's a very lucky man." And I'm like, and a comic. He's hilarious. I don't have a husband, but thanks. He's like, "Well, you'll make someone really lucky one day." He's like, "This is the best date I've ever been on." And it like occurred to me that it was the best date that I had ever been on. I can't tell you how many times I have prepared elaborate feasts for men that I've dated or boyfriends, and spent so much money, buying all the things and putting all the effort in and making this and preparation and days and like setting it up, and to barely even get a thank you, let alone like a deep conversation, compliments, but the kind that are like not for anything, just human to human. There's no expectation. It's just sincere gratitude. And I was like, that's so funny. Me and Mike. Who knew? And then he took off his hat and he had this huge gash on his forehead, like, whoosh, and it was crusty and like so gross. And I was like, what happened? What happened? He's like, "Oh, my friend cut off a tumor the other day. I'm just waiting for it to heal." And I was like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? Like, oh my God. So I go back to the house and I get a first aid kit. And I come back and I'm, Florence Nightingale-ing this dude. And he's just like loving it. He's just like, it's the best day of my life. Like, who is this woman? Like, who is she? And I kind of like clean it off. I put gloves on because I'm a weirdo. And literally on the side of the road. And my friends drove by and beeped and waved, and I waved at them, and then they carried on. And I cleaned this guy's head off, and we just sit there and hang out. And he's like, "Do you want to go watch the sunset?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was like, "Do you want a beer?" And he was like, "Sure." So I was like, cool. So we walked to go watch the sunset, and we stopped at the bodega. And I don't drink, so I bought him a 6-pack of Corona, or no, Tecate. And I give it to him, and we go sit on the beach, and he pulls out a joint, and he's like, I was like, where'd you get that? He's like, I have my ways. Like, so swaggy. And so we sat on the beach and watched this incredible sunset and smoked a joint, and then walked him back to his tent, and I gave him a hug, and he said, this has been one of the best nights of my life. And I was like, same. It's like, you're really awesome. And he's like, don't be a stranger. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, well, take care of your head, you know. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't like have any cash on me to give you. He's like, I don't need cash. He's like, I have everything I need. And I was like, wow, that's pretty, like, impressive, I guess. Impressive and like solid. So I go home and I lay down in my bed, and I'm just like looking at all the things that I've been stressing out about, like job, money, man, the planet, like all the things. And I just take them all in my head and kind of like remove them and put them in a giant rubbish bin and put the lid on, and then kick the rubbish bin and flip it off and go, I literally do not need anything except for a heart that beats and like allows me to feel empathy and compassion for other people with hearts, and eyes to see where I can do better and help, and a brain to know how to like navigate. I don't need any money, really, I don't. I don't need all this stuff, and I certainly don't need any of this drama and bullshit and headache. And I can thank Mike, my friend, for that, who I have seen a couple different times, like riding bikes around Venice. And I've never really had another like interaction like that with him, but I just know that he's there, and he's part of what makes that place so beautiful. And like, that's his home just as much as it is anyone's. And just, it helps me to be reminded that like, we're all the same. And when I walk around New York and I see all the people that are sleeping on the streets, or like are begging for money, or like trying, that like there's a story there. And it's probably very similar to a lot of our stories. And I think the one thing that's the most important is like acknowledging someone's presence as a human. Because just because they're down on their luck, or they don't have a house or an apartment or a car or an iPhone, and some of them do have iPhones. Like, honestly, I've seen a lot of homeless people with iPads. They're just chilling. I really don't get it how they charge them, but okay. But, you know, having a conversation with someone and being humane is more valuable than any amount of money that you can give a person. So anyway, Mike, if you ever see this, if you're online, I'm sending you so much love from New York, and I hope that the next time in LA, we can share sunset. That's it.